Hi there, everyone. Welcome to this episode of the Class E Podcast. I am your host, Mary Sturgill. This is the podcast that's brought to you through a partnership between the Hill Institute for Innovation and Entrepreneurship and the Communication Studies Department here at Furman University. We are starting a brand new series this summer in which we talk to current students and recent alumni about their entrepreneurial journeys. And you are going to be so surprised in this series about the kinds of things that these people are doing. It's so inspiring, and we hope that it inspires you too. So today we welcome a very special guest, Imani Grace King, who graduated from Furman in 2019. She is the founder of the film company Jig Productions. Imani, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
I love that name, Jig Productions. Speaking of the name, how did you come up with it?
Jig Productions. How did we come up with it? Jordan McNeil, also a Furman alum, has graduated with me. She was... I don't know if she ever wanted to, but she had the camera. So I was like, can you film this? Can you film this? Can you film this? Hey, how do you work this? Can you also help me edit this? And so for a while, I was like, I'm going to name it always for Jordan Imani Grace Productions. Jordan never really wanted to be part of the company, poor Jordan. But I said, but it's just like sweat equity and
Right. Yeah.
And so she was like, okay, I'll let you do it.
Well, I love it. And I never knew that. And I've known Imani since I came to Furman. I love that. So you didn't start out owning your own company, though, right? When you graduated, you worked briefly in the marketing and PR space.
I did.
What did you learn from that made you say, okay, I can do this? You worked for a small marketing firm here in Greenville, and so you kind of saw entrepreneurship in that regard. But what made you think, okay, I'm going to leave this job and I'm going to go do what I really want to do?
2020, I guess, that thing that happened, that casual thing that happened in 2020. I mean, I realized that, gosh, you can fail at something you may not be loving, and it's not your like life's purpose. So you might as well just like fail at something you really, really want to do and that you love. And if anything, that what we knew got flipped upside down March 2020, and I was kind of in this weird like transformation period already, and then that kind of was the catalyst for just like, let's just transition. And I mean, looking back on it, I don't know who gave me that faith, because it was like, the global economy was crashing and like people were losing jobs and getting furloughed, and I said, I'll just take a break, take a beat. And so that's when I resigned. I learned so much working at that marketing firm, because it showed me just the systems and the systematic methods to creating, whether that's a story through a brand or what can make you kind of elevate and make something really legitimate just through attention to detail, with whether it's a website or whether that is even like a business card even, and just the different details that you do. And I think that legitimacy is really important when you're starting off. Because you don't feel like you know what you're doing. You feel like you're the biggest imposter ever. And so working at that firm showed me, I was working with a lot of other small companies that wanted to legitimize themselves as well. And so I was like, well, at least I now have the skill set to legitimize myself through a brand. And that was really helpful. And that really pushed me to think, I guess, why not me?
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
I love that. Why not me?
Why not me?
Yeah. Yeah. And I would go along with that. Why not now? Right? Yeah. I mean, 2020 threw us all for a loop. And, if you look on paper, it looks like the absolute worst time to start a company. But for you, it was the absolute best, because it gave you the time you needed to plan out how you were going to do this thing.
Exactly. I think I really made it really serious. I really took myself seriously for the first time, I think, in my life. Maybe I finally took myself really seriously. And I think that was a like personal growth wise, professional growth wise, taking yourself seriously, giving yourself kind of compassion while you're learning, but also like some accountability for yourself, and like time spent and time management on, if you're going to take this seriously, you're going to have to start really being intentional about what you're doing. And like do it, and don't just leave it up to chance or fate or all the things are just, I was really before that pre-2020. I was like, oh no, everything's just going to fall into place. That would be my one thing. I'd be at a happy hour being like, it's just going to fall into place.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, no, I have all these ideas. It's in my notebook. Don't worry. And then I'm like, oh.
You've always been a very kind of Zen person to me anyway, so I can totally see that.
Oh my gosh, thank you for saying that. My mom thinks I'm chaotic, so I love that you think that I'm Zen.
Your mom and I talk about you a lot, and she's so proud of you, I will say. What did you, most of the entrepreneurs have some naysayers in their life, and especially when you're doing something as creative as owning a production company in which you create short films, they're like, well, how do you make money at that, right? So how have you dealt with the naysayers if you had them?
Oh gosh, I've been super, super, super blessed though to have so many supportive people that it really drowns out the naysayers, I would say. And I try to align myself with like-minded individuals who, again, are the why not me people, or just the people who acknowledge fear but aren't really controlled by it. And so that helped me tremendously with any naysayer or anyone that, or even the naysayers that you, I think, kind of make up in your head. You know, when you post something and you're like, they're probably going to think this is so stupid. They're going to be just scrolling and think this is dumb, and they're going to think I'm stupid, and they're going to think this is a dumb thing to do. No one ever said that. I will never know if they actually thought that. But so some of the naysayers, I would say, probably are like ones that I created in my head, because, I mean, I've been lucky that again, my mom happens to be one of the most encouraging people on the planet, and my friends are all very driven, very, very supportive, encouraging women. And I also think that was paramount to putting my work out there, is being surrounded by just a blanket of, they could be like, I don't understand it, but I love it. Or they'll be like, hey, I'll repost it. Or, hey, I love this. And that meant the world to me. And so any naysayers per se, I can't even think of any. I think I have a few. Well, this is one thing. I do think that when you're getting into an industry, especially entertainment industry, everyone and their mom sometimes wants to connect you with someone that is in the industry, because they're just trying to be helpful. And they're just trying to be supportive. So they're like, hey, you should make a call. You should set up a call with this person. And you should blah, blah, blah. And they should learn all these things. And so, I mean, and it's good to have these networking calls, you know, and also going into those networking calls not with any expectation that they'll do anything for you. Right. That's one of the biggest things. Like, they have their own stuff.
Everyone's trying to make it.
Everyone's hungry.
Right.
They're, you know, just because you're, you know, connected to another woman or another Black woman in the industry, I'm not going to make it their onus to lift me up with them, because, you know, they're trying their best. Everyone's going to try their best. And I think if the intention is, I just want to learn from you and be curious with you, that's like really, really important.
Oh, that's powerful.
It's so important. But, you know, the more you do those networking calls, though, you have to be very, very grounded in your own truth and your gut, because then they'll tell you some things, you know, they're like, oh yeah, that's not a good idea. Or like, oh, I remember one person, oh my goodness, really, I was talking about the kind of scripts I like. And I'm like, I just like this script and I like this script, but I also really like this script. They're like, yeah, niche down. Just try like doing like one thing. Just like be one thing. Just be like one thing. And I was like, oh, you're right. And then I like left that conversation being like, they're wrong. I'm like, that's just not for me. Like,
well, and that's the easy way, I would think, especially in the entertainment industry, to kind of get, I don't want to say pigeonholed, but typecast. She can only do this kind of film, because you're also an actress as well, right? And a writer, and you do it all. So you don't want to necessarily be pigeonholed like that. Like, I can only write this type of stuff.
Golly, I don't think anyone should.
Exactly.
Because I think that or someone's just write what you know. And I'm like, well, if someone wants to write a futuristic dystopia and about a woman or something, I don't know. And they're a man, I don't know. Maybe they shouldn't. Maybe they should be curious and engage their imagination in a way that's different. So I think you have to take everyone's kind of experiences as their experiences, their projection of what's happened to them. And, you know, usually I try to be like, okay, they meant well, but it's like, I'll take it or I'll leave it. And I think that's really big, especially when you're starting a business, and especially when you are looking for a level of validation, or you're looking for someone to say, all right, you're doing good. Keep it going. But you have to know that, like, okay, you have to be very clear about what are your metrics of success and metrics of like fulfillment and metrics of service. Like, what does that look like to you? And then you ask the questions, because then sometimes people just like, word vomit like what happened to them in 2010, and I'm like, I'm sorry.
Right.
There's TikTok now.
Right.
Like, genuinely, my friend Brooks is like, he was like, yeah, no, we had to have a studio and blah, blah, blah. And we worked all night. And he was like, yeah, the 90s. And I'm like, so I have this TikTok. And he's like, oh, God.
Speaking of TikTok, how many followers do you have on TikTok?
Gosh. I tried to get off of it because it was like a time suck. I think like maybe like 100,000.
Yeah.
20 something.
Yeah.
100,000.
But your things that you put on TikTok are really funny.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
It was an it was an accident. I didn't even mean to, because I'm actually really pretty bad on like social media. I wish I was so much better. That's my one like really growth point. I wish I could be one of those constant posters and consistently.
Yeah.
I think there also is probably a subconscious block here that I'm like, oh no, it's just gonna be another way for me. But really, that is such a important thing to do, is consistently post and believe in yourself,
and
even when everyone's not like, oh my God, this is the best post ever. You got like 3 likes on it. Just move on. Right. I've always struggled with that. I think that's my validation complex, probably. Not to unpack that too much. Right. But the TikTok, it was just me goofing off with my friend Miranda, and we just posted it.
It was so funny though.
And then next thing you know, we look the next morning and we're like, oh dear God, what have we done? Because that was that was like my 3rd TikTok ever made. I don't scroll on it ever. And it was just very weird. And so that week, that was like a solid like 6-7 months that was my like small livelihood, and it was like my big thing. And then I like got really sick of it. Yeah, I didn't love it as much.
You do have to, because you have to post like 3 times a day, and that consistency is key to growing your audience, right? And so it is time consuming.
It is.
And then if you take into consideration all the other social medias and how often you're supposed to post on theirs, Instagram, what is it, 2 or 3 times a week, and that kind of thing. So it's a lot of work. So speaking of, you still have to get your company's name out there. And you still have to go through the steps. So can you kind of outline some of the steps that you took to create Jig Productions, and what you did first and second and third?
Okay, good question. Well, in all honesty, I made Jig Productions because I was doing so many projects like on my own, because another thing that I found really important was, if you want to be a writer, you got to write. But then sometimes, trying to beg someone to take a chance on your writing, that could be a long, arduous road. Could be. Sometimes it's really not.
Most of the time it is.
But especially because if you're green. Right. And I look at the things I made when I was green, and I'm like, oh, goodness, I thought this was going to be made into something, but it's not, because it's terrible. So I'm like, I'm going to put that in a vault. Yeah. But if you want to write, or you want to be an actor, but no one's really giving you a shot, then you have to kind of write your own stuff. And then if you want to be a director, but no one's giving you their pieces to direct, you kind of have to write and act and direct. And then you kind of have to end up, you don't have to do anything. There's always collaboration. There's always like so many possibilities. But for my experience, it was that. Because I was like, I'm stubborn also. I'm a very stubborn person. So I was like, I can't really justify me begging for someone to take a chance on me when I'm not sure I've done the chance yet, if I've earned it yet myself. And so, because I was like, I don't know if I can cut it. As much as I believe I can cut it, I'm like, can I cut it? Can I film for 4 hours straight? Do I have the stamina to actually do that? And the attention span, dear Lord, to do that? Like, I don't know if I can. And so I had to start pushing myself to just do it myself. And having a best friend like Jordan McNeil was also great too, because she had the camera and the audio and all these different setups.
And she's super talented.
And she's so talented, and the encouragement. And so that was really lovely. So then I was like, okay, I do actually really like this, and I can do this. And so that gave me confidence more when I was reaching out to people. But so long story long, started the company because I was like, I have these pieces and I think I need an umbrella to put them under. Instead of it just being these random videos I post on like Instagram or Facebook or whatever, or YouTube, I was like, I'd like to have it under something. And so then I just did kind of like, what are my values for this company and what is a need? And right now I could only, from my point of view, the need was, you're new and no one really wants to, not no one, some people do, but for the most part, you're fighting.
Yeah, you're trying to break in.
But I don't want to make over generalizations, because then that's annoying, because some people's experiences are so different than mine, and they can, you never know what could happen. And I think if you tell someone it's going to be like this over and over again, they're going to make it into a self-fulfilling prophecy. Yeah. So I try not to say too much like, this is the way, the truth, the life. But for me and my experiences, I had to make something that really created like a space for new people to make art without it being super high stakes, without it having to be like a self-tape that doesn't really it shows your skill, self-tape, but it doesn't show the complexity and like how much your experience and your expertise is elevated through lights, through editing, through the swell of beautiful score, through all these things that we watch and we're like, that's a good actor. And I'm like, it's also like a lot of people working to make that actor look fantastic. And so I was like, oh, how can I do that? How can I make something that is like, oh, what scene was that taken from? Or like, what is that from? What's that short piece from? And so I was like, okay, well, maybe Jig Productions can be something like that. And so then I got the kind of the values and the legitimate brand book. So I felt like it was more legit. And then, you do the whole, skidding with the business bureau or whatever, and like registration and all that good stuff and taxes and things that I still don't know, but I'm like, yeah, I did it. Like someone told me to do it.
I'm registered at the Secretary of State's office.
Yes, I said I paid something and I filled something out and I got an email. And so like, that's legit. And so I did that. And then after that, it became really just it's still such a work in progress that it's still just the thing I'm doing.
That's the nature of what you're doing, of owning a production company. It's always going to be a work in progress, right? One of the things that I love about what you do is that you give other people who want to get into the industry the opportunity to work with you and to kind of build their own resumes as well. Whether they come in and they're the production manager or the runner or whatever, and or other actors that you've met, and in your short films, they it's all with kind of people who are maybe, and correct me if I'm wrong, beginning their careers or early in their careers. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, thank you.
Because it's really hard for them to go to places and be able to work on a film and things like that.
Right. And it's kind of like, again, let's see if you like it.
Exactly.
Let's just see if you like it. Because sometimes I'm like, because I was like, I can do it all. I love this stuff. I could do this for the rest of my... No. I don't like producing as much as I thought I did. Directing, I do enjoy. I think sometimes I like directing actually more than acting now, which is very, very telling thing. Because I thought I was like, I just need to be the actor.
Right.
No, I don't even know if I care about that anymore. I'm like, writing is always going to be my heart and soul. But I was like, there's so many other things. I need someone who's more like Gabby, who also was an alumni.
Yeah, I told Gabby, I said, you need to contact Imani and get with her because Gabby wanted to be a filmmaker. And I said, here's her number, reach out to her.
Changed my life. She is everything. I literally I'm so dependent on her. It's ridiculous. And I just hope that one day I can just, she's so wonderful. And she's done so much to like help me grow. And I hope that I've helped her grow as well. And she's just a fantastic, thank you. She is great. But having someone like her made me see, oh God, that's a producer.
Right.
That's a producer. I mean, she's going to be all the things, every single thing, and the bag of chips. But I was like, that's real production and a production manager. I am not. I am a people pleaser who likes attention.
That's an important thing to understand as an entrepreneur. You can't do everything.
You cannot do everything.
So you've got to hire the people that can. Do the things where you're weak. What has been the most rewarding thing for you since you started the company?
The process, probably. I used to be so obsessed, Mary, with the outcome. I used to be so obsessed and dreaming and wishing of a future I haven't earned yet. So much. I was like, I just wish that they would do this script and I would be a producer, director of it, and it would be millions of dollars. Like, I don't even know what I was saying at this point, because then you just get your small budget and you do your small things and see how much time and effort that takes. It's so gratifying as you're going through this process and learning, and then you show it. And then you go to the next process and you learn and you grow from it, and then you show it, and then again and again. And, I think sometimes it is kind of like, well, when big things happen? But then I'm learning, I'm like, oh no, the big things are happening right now.
They are.
Because again, if I delay the satisfaction, if I delay the self-compassion, if I delay the kind of pat on the back that you give yourself, or the happiness even, just the happiness in the process of doing it. If you delay that for the when I blank, I'll be happy. I don't think you're going to be happy when you get there.
And you're not going to grow enough to get there.
No, you won't, because you are so obsessed with this outcome that you are going to just like totally not see all these other elements that are happening in front of you, because you're so married to this idea and you're so attached to this idea that, oh, this is me. Like, oh, I'm just going to be the writer actor, or I'm going to blah, 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 blah. But I'm like, no, I actually allowed for change and other different things, and like actually allowed the experiences to kind of run through me so I can enjoy it, grow from it, and then realize, oh, this is what I want to do. Yeah. And I don't know if I was obsessed with an outcome. I don't know if I would, and I was obsessed with an outcome beforehand, even before
early on. Yeah.
You know, you just are. And I think that's more, not to get too Dr. Phil-y or like too therapy chair, but like I do think it's probably like a wound you probably have that you need this validation for this reason.
I think so. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
and so then you start kind of going through it, and then you're like, oh, well, I think I actually can give this kind of healing to myself and also may have a job out of it, and then also do all these things. And so, I don't know, I think the rewarding process has been just growing and healing while also figuring out what do you want to do for the rest of your life. Because a lot of times, unfortunately, I think people are living two different things where their fulfillment isn't connected to what they do for a living.
I think you're absolutely right.
And that hurts me because I think I wish everyone could really just be doing what
they love.
What they really love and fulfill them. Because then when it's really terrible and hard, you still like love it. Yeah.
Do you have an entrepreneurial philosophy? You've kind of just shared some of it with us.
Gosh,
do it, right?
I'm an armchair expert. I love just talking about philosophies and theories and inner child healing.
That's why I ask you that question.
Can't take me anywhere. I'll literally be like, I read in this book. No, it was a podcast. No, actually, it was a TikTok. Philosophy, oh gosh. I think we really, or at least for me, I'm so over like saying how hard things are going to be.
Right.
I'm just like, I don't want to tell younger people that. I don't want to tell myself that because again, like I do think the brain is a powerful vessel.
Absolutely.
And I think you'll probably make it really hard if you're going to be like, well, this is just going to be so hard. Or you'll just talk yourself out of it. Or you'll just, fear-base someone out of it or something. And it's like, I don't know if it's going to be hard. I know it's going to be diligent. It's going to take diligence and intention and growth mindsets and love and service. I think like serve others before you serve yourself, or serve others while you serve yourself. You can
which is what you're doing with Jig Productions.
Hopefully, I want to do it a little more. But like I think that's really important. And I think not saying that it's just going to be so gosh darn hard, because I don't think it has to be hard. I think if you have the right, again, you're surrounding yourself with people who are just going to be there with you and talk you through it, but also just, have the same values, and you're intentional about all the time that you're spending to make this happen, and you are growing through the really uncomfortable things that do arise as you're going for something that you love. I think that that's not hard. That's life, and that's process, and that makes really actually cool people, really, really, really high functioning or high performing individuals. Do you know what I mean? Like that's what that makes, and it's not because they're like, oh, it's just hard becoming this way. It's like, no, it's not.
Oh my! I want to give you a high five. Let's do that again.
Oh wait, can we do like
1,
better?
2, 3. There you go.
I don't know how I messed up a high five.
I know, me too. I absolutely love that. I know all of us in our lives have someone that's the naysayer that always puts up those roadblocks when you say, I have a great idea. And they're like, well, what about this? And I'm like, I will cross that bridge when I come to it. Let me get rolling. Don't put water on my fire just yet, right?
Let me type in my notepad.
Exactly.
Leave me alone.
Exactly. I love it.
Yes.
You went through the Greenville Starts program last fall, I believe. Was it last fall?
Oh my gosh, it was
last fall. So almost a year. What takeaways did you take away from that program that kind of helped you and kind of propelled you forward a little bit?
They were so
because you were you had Jig Productions up. It wasn't like you were starting from scratch. Yeah. You've been running for over a year.
Yeah. Oh my God, they're so awesome. Oh my gosh, I love everyone at the Greenville Starts program. I did learn. This is kind of like with Greenville Starts mixture, because I was actually not the best like cohort member because I was traveling to LA for half of it. So I'd just be gone for like 3 weeks, then come back and be like, hey guys, here's my brand book. And so like I was very off. And so I actually would love to do it again and just like learn more and actually go to the classes that I missed. But I learned that I used to want Jig Productions. I had my whole business plan, and I used to want it to be so large with so many departments and vessels and all these different things, and then be just like an employer. Yeah. I don't think I want to be an employer anymore, which is really, I think I would love to employ someone on a project by project basis. So if we have this movie together,
so contracts,
exactly, like any movie would be under the Jig Productions umbrella. Like we're making a movie together, and together we're going to spend really, really a lot of intimate time together to create this and problem solve together and have this wonderful working relationship for like an X amount of time. And then we'll call it a day, and then maybe we'll go to the next project, or, you know, we'll hire other people, all these different things. Independent contractors, I think, would be my biggest, kind of my jam, because also I work underneath, I'm wearing the sweatshirt right now. I work in Los Angeles for a nonprofit. And I'm the executive assistant to the executive vice president. And she's everything. She handles everything. And I was like, well, this is a lot. That's a lot. That is a lot. To be responsible for other people's livelihood is a lot. And I think we also, being self-employed and being an employer, very different. Very different. And I thought they were synonymous. They are very different. I thought if I wanted to be self-employed, I'd have to just, again, be in charge of everyone and have all of this kind of pressure on myself year round. Like that doesn't really end on the holidays that they get off on Mondays. She still works. I was like, I don't know if I really want to do that. So that was, but Greenville Starts was at the beginning of me trying to figure that out, because they have you really be intentional about your values and your business plans and stuff. And I came in before that with my massive business plan, and then that in confluence with working with at my job, I was like, oh no, I don't think I do want to do that. I think I want to work hard, diligently. You started to say hard, but then you changed the word to diligent. There is a difference, and there's a reason you changed that word. Why did you change it? I think it's like we have a really, really, really bad connotation with hard. It's going to be hard. I'm like, long division is hard. Math is hard. It's the only thing I'm going to say is hard. I mean, there's so many other things that are hard things that people go through, so I don't want to diminish any of that. But I think when it comes to fulfillment and what you want to do with your life and fulfillment and taking charge of that regard, diligence is important. We're going to work diligently. We're going to work intentionally. We're going to work respectfully. And we're going to work kind of like, I think that's what I'm going to just have to start saying. Because again, when someone's going through something really hard, you can say, that's hard. Yeah, that's hard. Yeah. Well, and that shows that those things, losing someone is hard, right? Right. Those things are hard. Let's save hard for that. Exactly. The life's roadblocks and the life's traumas that inevitably happen. Like, let's just leave hard for that. You deciding to do something that fulfills you in your life, we don't make that hard. We can make that all the things. So thank you for delineating that for me. I like that a lot. So you've had a lot of success in your writing, and you've submitted to several, for people who don't know, there's different film competitions, different writing competitions for those film competitions and film festivals, if you will. Talk a little bit about the success that you've seen in that area. Success I've seen in that area. I mean, I had my short film aired at a film festival, which was really exciting. It was a local one, the local Reedy Rose Film Festival. That was an amazing weekend. I've had my scripts that I worked on those scripts in like 2019, and then rewriting. And I have like my friends who had read them too. And so then those would get to like semifinals or like a finalist in a competition, which was really cool. And now it's actually getting looked at by, the writer's strike is really it's really hurting you, I'm sure. Putting a damper on some things, so I won't even say much about that. But luckily, the work that I did in 2020, 2021, 2022 is now coming to fruition in 2023, which has been really lovely. So having people actually interested in the work that I'm doing and the scripts that I've written has been really the most success, I think. It's just someone reading it and saying, I think this has legs, and I think we can probably make it into something. Right. And then just being able to get enough money to make my little short films. Yeah. So I don't want to jinx anything, but I do know that recently you met with Netflix. So tell us about that. What you can tell us about that. Yeah. Well, it was an initial meeting, right? It was literally an initial meeting. And my sister was like, move in silence. Why do you have to tell people? And I'm like, I'm posting on my, they send you this automatic email saying like, your time is here at Netflix. And I just was like, this is so cute. I want to post it. And my friend She's a creative exec.
It's part of the journey, right?
It's part of the journey. I also was like, I want people to say it, whatever.
Yeah.
It was my friend who was at Disney, she moved and now she's a creative exec there. Mm-hmm. And she is just, we've been through a lot of like just the writing journey together. And I think we've seen each other grow, and it's been really great to have her as a friend. And so that was able to get me in the door. The door. And it really wasn't one of those things where it's like, it's about who you know. Because it's like, I reconnected with her after years. We went to like middle school together or high school together. Like, and then she graduated not way ahead of me, but ahead of me. And we just didn't speak after that, as it goes with high school. And then a mutual friend was like, hey, she's there. You might want to like ask her about the thing. And he did like the little networking thing, the little networking call. And she's the opposite of most networking calls. She is like effervescent and encouraging and awesome and just like so hungry to read anyone's stuff, to give feedback. And she's the light of anyone's life. She's fantastic. And then years later, we fast forward and being able to have our professional relationship in service of one another kind of finally created this new like connection, which was really cool. But, you know, again, it took like years you
cultivated that friendship.
It's a cultivation of relationship too, because I wouldn't even say we came out as like, oh, we're friends. It was very professional. Yeah. And then it came to just being confidants and then talking and stuff like that. So I think another thing, and someone's like, it's all about who you know. And I'm like, I would say it's more about how you connect. Yes. And like how you connect.
Oh, I like that.
You know, it's not, because like you can rub.
I know a lot of people.
Right? That's what I'm saying. You can rub elbows with so many people who they wouldn't do anything for you. Right. And if you think that because you know their name or you have their agent's info or like you saw them at that one thing or like you know them from that one friend. Yeah. That doesn't mean anything. Or you partied with them. I'm like, that doesn't mean anything. Don't waste your time partying with them. Right. Don't do it, guys. Just go get coffee and just ask them about their life.
Yeah. Yeah. So she met with you. So this really was, here's the door, but you have to prove yourself once you get into the door. And if they don't like your writing projects, then you're gone. Right.
Then there's hopefully someone else that will be like, oh, I like that.
Exactly. Yeah. So you had a positive. We'll leave it at this, but you had a positive experience.
Yes. Yes. It was awesome. It was actually it was a really great positive experience. Very hopeful.
Yeah. So, but the writer's strike is kind of hindering things right now.
Oh man. I mean, I'm in a really great spot. I have to acknowledge I'm in a really great spot because I do have another job in LA. Right. That pays my bills. I'm not a writer who's just had their whole life halted. Right. In hopes of a better future for their livelihood. Right. Like it is, and I'm choosing to see it this way. My optimism is like, I'm in a great spot because when I fully emerge into this industry fully as a writer, people have done the legwork and the hardship, right? And fought and took a bullet financially, right? So someone like me can have a better chance, and I think that's really special. And so, as much as I roll my eyes at it and say, "Why is this happening?" I'm more like, "Well, I'm in a really good spot
because you're going to be one of the beneficiaries."
That's what I'm saying. Yeah,
right. I gotcha. Yeah. So you work for a nonprofit. You have the best, I have to say, work life. Because she works on for this nonprofit that's based out in California. You go to California for a couple weeks at a time when you go, but most of the time you're here in Greenville working on Jig Productions and then also working, for your job. Talk to us a little bit about how that job, what you've learned from that job that helps you with Jig Productions.
Goodness. Where do I begin? I do a lot of operations and administration, and I used to work a lot with finance too with the company, and just again learning about the ins and outs of running a business, and again helped me create the decision or have the decision of I think I just want to be self-employed. Right. I don't know if I want to be an employer of so many people and they're on my payroll indefinitely. Right. Like I don't know if I really want that, and so that was the biggest thing that I learned about myself more, and I think building capacity. It's like, because again, I'm doing a lot of different things and different projects at New Earth, and that's allowed me to understand that I'm multifaceted and I can multitask, but When I'm not multitasking, I'm focusing on one thing, I'm really, really powerful too.
Yeah.
So that's a really good thing to know about myself. Because again, like I think you're the same, we're doers.
Right.
And so how do we get it done?
Exactly.
How many hats do we have to wear to get it done? And how long do we have? Because we'll try it, do it. And sometimes that can be, we'll have the all day sleeping.
Right. Sometimes you're just so exhausted that you just have to recharge like that.
Yeah.
For people who might not know, what is New Earth?
Oh gosh, yes. New Earth is a nonprofit in Los Angeles for system impacted youth. And so, we give mentorship programs, educational opportunities, vocational training, career path training, and just wraparound care and wraparound services. So it's just, I like to think of it, this isn't really how they put it. It's like not the branding of it, but I like to describe it as like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and how do we really, really attack every single hierarchy of needs at the same time. So, yes, while we always want someone to have health and or food and the basic needs for human survival, we want them to thrive. It's not just getting those basic needs, it's also getting that self-actualization while we get them those basic needs. Right.
Yeah.
And so that's what we do there. Yeah.
Good stuff. And you know what, that plays right into your idea of service first. And so you don't just, talk the talk, you walk the walk, and both working for New Earth and what you're doing with Jig Productions. And I'm really proud of you. And I can't wait to see when, I'm going to tear up. I can't wait to see when you win your Oscar because it's going to happen.
That is the kindest thing ever, and make me cry. That was so kind of you to say. Thank you.
Woo, I didn't mean to make myself cry either. But I believe in you that much, and I see how hard you work. And let me take that back. I see how determined you work. and how you're balancing both for right now. And I mean, Imani raises the money for each of her short films, as you do them, and you raise the money, do the film, raise the money for the next film. And that's pretty cool. Because you're getting all of the, you're just doing it all. And I'm so proud of you.
Mary, thank you. That means a lot.
You're welcome. We're both sitting here in tears now. I didn't mean for us to cry. If listeners want to check out your work, where can they go?
ImaniGraceKing.com and Instagram, Imani Grace King. And that'll be the top two. The top two to find anything.
Yeah, so check her out and see everything that she's doing. Imani, thank you so much for coming on the show with me. I didn't mean to leave us in tears.
All I do is cry and talk. Genuinely, all I do. All the time. This was the best time I could ever have. So
great.
You're the best. Thank you
so much.
Thank you for being amazing and doing what you do.
Oh my gosh. Well, thank you. I love it. That's it for this episode of the Class E podcast. But before I let you go, remember, if someone you know is an entrepreneur, or maybe it's yourself, they are launching a new Greenville Starts program this fall. If this cohort is full, then of course they launch it again in the spring. I highly recommend that you do that. And also for our students who might be listening to this, or future students, we have the Paladin Pitch competition that will be beginning in the fall, and we'll have different sessions throughout the year. And then next spring, next April, we'll have the big Paladin Pitch competition. So if you have an idea, start working on that idea, and you might be able to win a lot of money for yourself in that. But for now, that does it for this episode of the Class E podcast. I am your host, Mary Sturgill. Remember, this is the podcast that's brought to you through a partnership between the Hill Institute for Innovation and Entrepreneurship and the Communication Studies Department here at Furman University. And it is produced by our brand new student producer, who's a Comm Studies major, Isabella Martinez. And so we want to thank her for doing such a great job. This is her first podcast. So those of you who are watching it, make a comment about how great a job Isabella did. Until next time, everybody, dream big.